Hi. So you've heard me talk a lot about Secura HR and how we really tackled HR compliance, meaning following all the employment laws and making sure that companies are protected, we're reducing risk, companies feel secure, sort of all in the name, so to speak. But I thought I would take a moment to spend a little bit of time for those that are out there that are maybe thinking that, hey, AI or ChatGPT or other AI platforms can just do all this for me. The purpose of this activity is not to make AI the enemy, because AI, a lot of good things that you can do with AI. Anybody that's ever tried to create some sort of creative script or something to talk about probably knows that AI is just absolutely brilliant in doing some of these things. It can also be a lot of fun to interact with and find information and so forth. So it can be very helpful. But when we're talking about following all the HR laws in the U.S. and making sure that we're compliant with those laws and we're doing all the things that we need to do to be compliant, which includes things like policies and handbooks and legal agreements, I hope that this short video will at least demonstrate some of the shortcomings of AI. So for those that don't know, I'm Sean Holyfield. I am an attorney. I went to Notre Dame Law School. I do not practice law currently, but I do have a legal background and have spent a lot of time over the years reviewing contracts and creating legal documents and doing legal research. So I don't know that that makes me more qualified to do this, but at least it gives you a little bit of my background and credentials. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to look over here and share my window, which will start with ChatGPT. So here we go. So the very first thing that I always like to know is, well, if we're going to follow the law, we first need to know how many laws there are. So let's start there. How many employment laws are there in the U.S.? There isn't a single clean number, and that's actually the point. Yeah, I've talked a lot with my AI, so it knows that there's over 1.5 million. We also have like the exact number all the way down to city and state level. But yeah, here's a example of the takeaway that no business is failing at HR because they're careless. They're struggling because no human can manually track this many laws. The system, my AI system, knows a lot about some of the stuff that we do. So, but anyway, there's lots of extra stuff here. But so the answer is doesn't know. How many employment laws are there? Oops, 8 there. Are there in California? Tens of thousands of laws and regulations. So the actual number in California is just under 50,000 laws. If you add in court cases, it goes closer to 100,000. But in California, you also have a little over 800,000 federal laws that apply. So the total number that applies to California is just over 900,000 laws. We've got the exact numbers on our website, but just to answer that question. So the reason I'm going through this is that AI doesn't have the laws. Do you have the laws? No. So primary California employment law sources, the labor code, wage orders, private attorneys, PAGA, yeah. Other key statutes kind of jumping around. And at a high level, there's 4 buckets of law. There are codes or statutes which are created by the people we vote into office. Then there's laws that are created by the agency that runs. Every government is big, and governments have groups that they've created that are responsible for making sure that the statutes, the ones that are passed by the people we vote into office, that those actually get followed within the state. Easiest way to think about this is like the Department of Motor Vehicles. When you and I go to the DMV and we get a driver's license, we're not meeting with the person that we voted into office. It's not like the congressperson, right? Because they've created a group that is responsible for doing that for the government. And that group is called an agency, meaning that they have the authority or authorization to act on behalf of the people that we voted into office, the government. So, so there's like a Department of Labor. Every state's got different names. Many of them call it the Department of Labor, but California's got its own name, so forth and so on. So they pass their own laws, and then they have websites that have laws on them, and then there's court cases. That's another type of law, and that's usually where the biggest bucket of laws are, is court cases. That's a lot. I won't get into the exact math because it kind of breaks your head, but step one is you have to have all the laws. Can you write me a compliant handbook for California that is legal? I misspelled California. Sorry about that. I cannot deliver a guarantee fully legal or attorney-approved California handbook on my own. Yep. These are some of the things that are involved: employer size, industry, union, non-union, remote. These are absolutely some good things. I can draft a California specific handbook that's So let's take a look at this. Here's the core structure. At-will employment, good. Equal employment opportunity, good. Anti-harassment, absolutely. Anti-discrimination, wage and hours, good. Leave policies, they've listed a few here. Good. And is a static PDF in California is a lawsuit exhibit, often outdated, frequently misapplied. That's absolutely true. This is why we create handbook presentations that are updated daily. Okay, 6 questions. Here we go. So it's going to ask us these questions, right? So let's go ahead and answer them. Let's say 50 employees in, let's see, Los Angeles. Let's say software industry. All salaried, just to make it a little bit easier on the AI. All on site, non-union. And the AI is going to create this here. And here we go. Anti-harassment reporting concerns. Just for those that are not aware, equal employment opportunity is federal, but the state of California and several local governments have got special things that need to be included in it. And we're just going to let this thing go, and it's going to continue to write this. But as it's doing this, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up a compliant handbook using Secura HR. So I'm going to come here. Let's just go to my saved handbooks. And normally I would just watch a presentation of this, but it's got 60 policies in it. And I could go to view the PDF, which is the document piece of this, but I'm just going to go to the presentation. I'll go to California, a little bit more interesting. We've got videos that walk people through this stuff. So I'll stop that, but we'll come here. And expectations. There's a lot. There's 60 in here for kind of that core compliant handbook that I set up. So as we come here and we take a look at what's been done, We've got the purpose. We're coming down. We're seeing what AI has done. Looks like they ended at 19. So 19 pieces of information here versus 60 individual. You'll see right here, it says 60 policies here. But let's actually just jump into a little bit more detail because I kind of want to like hop into the policies themselves. We've written, as you can see on the left-hand side here, 968 policies at a federal level, and for California we have 879, including Los Angeles, which has its own specific policies that are required. It doesn't look like the AI picked up the Los Angeles policies. Nothing in here about, it didn't pick up the, paid sick leave in California. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, says employees are provided sick leave in accordance with this law, whichever provides greater benefits. But you actually need to put those in the handbook. It's not enough to just say that we're going to do it per the law. But let's actually hop into, let's look at these required policies. Let's go into required federal and state. And you'll notice here it says 208 in California. The truth is that it depends on the size of your company. So even though it says legally required, it's true. Our system, based on the information you put in your workplace profile, like the questions that it asks you, it goes and grabs the right policies, right? But I am really, really interested to take a look at the, this policy right here. So discrimination, harassment, retaliation, prevention in California is kind of a big deal. And you'll notice here that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 individual things that are required by California law to be in this policy. There's also a federal policy, but this is the California policy. This is, let's see if they break these out, race, color, ancestry. So those are lumped together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they're missing 3. And specifically, the information that's missing is, let's see, gender identity. No, that's there. So some of these are here. And military and veteran status, civil air patrol. So there's military veteran, but there's no civil air patrol, which is legally required to be in here, for example. So the whole point of going through this is that the EEOC, or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is both federal and then there's state level groups that go after this. This is one of the most active groups that audits, reviews, and you can really get dinged for something as simple as I'm missing one of the things I was supposed to list in this policy. So AI created about 19 policies. 18 policies with an acknowledgement. And it was missing just from one policy, things that legally need to be in this policy that are listed here, right? And then it also missed the other 40 policies that apply in California. So it's it's a bit lacking when it comes to actually creating an employee handbook, though a lot of people use it for creating policies or drafting policies, and the policies are often miswritten or they don't contain the exact language that needs to be there in order to be legally compliant according to the law. So when we hop into a policy like this, or we're looking at something like discrimination, harassment, retaliation policy, right? And we clicked view and we're looking at the text. There's also like a detailed explanation here, which gets into the exact parts of the law that need to be read and understood and applied. What is the California law that requires and EEO policy. $12,940. Yep. As well as the California Code of Regulations 11006. So good on AI for having some of this stuff in here. And now let's hop over here and let's take a look at the other required things in California. So let me hop to checklists. And we're going to hop into California. And we're going to look at the 260 legally required things that a company could be responsible for in California. And here they are. So let's start with how many specific specific things do I need to be HR compliant in California? $60 to $90, $70 to $100. It's got some of these things here. Is there an exact number, or is there an exact number? There cannot be one. So there is a finite checklist. These are the 260 things that are all tied to the law. So if we look at these individual things and we pull the information over and we understand what this task is, what needs to be done, and why, it's very easy to see exactly, like, here's the code section of the law, here's exactly why it's required, this is a description of it. So in order to answer this question, and AI doesn't have the laws, which is why it can't answer the question specifically, you need all of the laws in like a container, which we've got. And then you've got to read them all, which we do, and we did. And then you've got to break that into legally required tasks and like optional or like best practice tasks, right? And in truth, there's a little over 360 individual things that a company could do to reduce risk. I guess 366 in California, and it does vary by state. But there is an actual answer to that question. It's not simply a no, there's not an exact number, and there cannot be one, which is really silly, because if we understand just the structure of the way things work, if you have every law and you've read it and you understand all the things that need to be done, you then can create a list of things that need to be done, right? So anyhow, and that's this checklist, right? It lets us know all the things that actually need to be done in order to get compliant with the laws in a specific state. So let's kind of talk about the next piece here. Do you have a copy of all the notices and posters for California? And it does pull up several places where you can go get them. You can go to the websites and download them, which is great because we've got those notices and posters also in our platform. If we come here and we have notices and posters, and we go to view, and we'll pull this out and just take a look at the poster as it exists. There you go, employee rights. So anyway, obviously there's some links here. Great. Good job, AI, kind of getting us at least some links to websites, but I then need to go to those websites and actually find them, right? I would then need to come here, workplace posters, go to English, page not found. Thank you for that link. Let's see, minimum wage, come here. Here's an employee rights poster. I could click on this and download this, and I guess I could send this out or I could print it out, what have you. Cool. So let's do this. How can I prove that my company is compliant with all HR laws? Wow, you cannot prove you're compliant with all HR laws in the absolute sense. What you can prove, or what regulators, judges, plaintiff attorneys care about, is that your company is actively demonstrably compliant, takes reasonable steps. What proof of compliant really means does not require perfection, reasonable, documented, ongoing efforts. That's not accurate, because if you're breaking the law, no judge is going to cut you any slack if it can be proved. Training records is huge. Let's see, written procedures. Okay, good. So it's kind of reiterating what does not count as proof. What it's not doing is taking all of this content, putting it into a portal. So we have a checklist of things we need to do, and then we have a portal, and that is where we would share these things with employees, right? We would view whether or not somebody had done the things that we wanted them to do. We can instantly see whether they've completed the training, or they've signed the confidentiality agreement, or the hybrid work agreement. Whatever those things are, this is a demonstration environment, but have they done these things? I can come in here and I can preview what people see in the platform or in the portal. So if we send, in this case, Alex access to the platform, Alex can click here, review the training. He can watch the handbook presentation. He can review and sign off and acknowledge the policies. All these things can be easily done in the employee portal, which I can view. I can manage my content, meaning all content that I've got, policies and otherwise. I can share this with employees, because truly the only way to be compliant, in other words, to follow the law, is to go get all the right stuff. In other words, you have to know all the things that you need to do. And that involves, as I've talked about, I think a couple times before, it involves coming into a place that has all of the policies, procedures, documents, agreements, notices and posters, as well as training that you may need to provide to your employees, depending on where you operate and how many people are there. Once you've got all that information in hand and you put it here in your portal, you now can share it with your employees. And then once you share it with your employees, you can then prove that they actually did it or they didn't do it by clicking on their compliance file, and we can see all the details here, and I can click a button, download a compliance report that just lets me know for Alex Bowling, this is their employee compliance report based on this date. Did Alex do or sign or view these things, including notices and posters and everything else? So while AI, we know, doesn't have the laws, while AI is going to make some mistakes as it writes policies, it does have a lot of information in here, and that's a good thing. But it's not even getting us to step one, because step one is that we need to know what we need to do. And then step two is we also then, once we know what to do, need to have all of that stuff done for us. I mean, we could come to AI with the list of things to do, and we could tell it, hey, write me please write a smoking policy for Iowa. And here is its policy in Iowa. It's a really long policy. Which is really interesting. So comply with state and local distance requirements. The policy is supposed to state that it needs to be, I believe, more than 25 feet is the Iowa policy. Not to get in the weeds here, but let me actually just hop back over here and see the Iowa policy. Let's go to policies. We'll go to Iowa smoking. Let's see. We'll view this one. It's optional at the federal level, required at the state, and and we've got the full policy there. I may be thinking of a different state when it comes to the exact distance laws, whether it's Iowa or a different state. But so there may not be a distance requirement, but which is fine then. So good job, AI, in putting this together. Is there a distance requirement? Is there a distance requirement? $8 feet. So, 25 feet is good. I think the 25 feet is pretty standard in the U.S. So you are able to get to some of these things, which is great. Like I said at the outset, I love AI. I use AI for legal compliance. It's a bit clunky. Like I either need to guide it or tell it specifically, which means that I would need a checklist of exact things that I need to do in order to have it draft things. I would then need to hope that it gets it right because it doesn't actually have the law. Like we saw in the California one, it was missing the Civil Air Patrol. I'd have to tick and tie some of the other things, but it's sometimes missing content that it needs because it doesn't actually have all the laws. And it really isn't getting us to all of the other things. And let's chat about that. So procedures, documents, agreements, notices, which I kind of asked it a bit, which is how many posters do I need to share with my employees in California? It's a range, which, okay. And there's some listed stuff here. It'll probably have some links down below. So step one is knowing what to do. There's not a list of things to do. So that's a bit missing. Step two is having the things, which we can leverage AI to kind of help us make some of those things, whether it's writing some of those things or whether it's give us opinions on some of it, which is great. The posters, it can't go create those. You need to go get this from the government. But we don't have a full list of things. The things that it writes are not always legally correct. And then the biggest missing piece is that I could have all the content in the world. The book's behind me. I could have it full of the exact things I need. But if I don't have a way to get it to my people and a way to track that they viewed it, acknowledged it, or signed it, I'm still not compliant. Like it's not enough to just have the content or to have the policy. It has to be shared, read, and understood. And there needs to be an acknowledgement of that. It's not enough to have the at-will employment agreement, if there's an agreement. It needs to be signed, right? So step one is what are all the to-do tasks? What are the things I need to do? And there's the checklist that we have on our platform. The next step is what's all the content? And someone has to have written all that. Like somebody needs to write that. AI can be used to write some of that stuff, but as we've seen in a couple examples, it may miss some things, right? We've written in almost all states over 700 unique policies in order to give every company access to all the possible things they may need I don't know any company that needs 700 policies, but having it on the shelf available is important, so that you're not having to go to AI to create it and worry that it's maybe missing something. You're not in a situation where you're wondering whether what's been done is right or wrong, because you're able to come in, you're able to look at the information, you're able to see the exact code section that ties to this specific policy. Why is it required? You can read through all of this information. And again, our team of legal researchers created this, not AI, again, not to pick on AI. Plus you have the full text, you've got presentations which people can watch and understand, and so forth and so on. And then full histories of this stuff as well. So it's a much more confident way to get that second piece, which is the content. And then of course the third piece is truly being able to deliver that content to your people. So if you don't have a portal where you can put your people into it, share it, and then track whether they viewed, acknowledged, or signed things, you're not compliant. You've kind of made it 2/3 the way there. You had the list of things to do. You went and created all this stuff. Like really, really great job. But now we've got to take that final step, which is like, how do I get it out to my people, and then later prove that my people read, understood, or signed these things? And that's the portal, because all this content can be shared through the portal, sent by email, text, what have you. They can, again, view, acknowledge, or sign, and the platform tracks the day and time that they did those things, so that you can create easily a report of like, hey, look, our people have that. So AI is not able to do that. And there's some other things that are missing as well, like the handbook presentations and the trainings. Like AI doesn't have the training. It can maybe create a training script for you, but it doesn't actually have the trainings done. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, AI is amazing. Like there's so many good things about AI. For those that hate AI, I'm not trying to offend any of the AI haters. I tend to try to find the good parts of things and to the extent possible ignore the bad parts of things. And I think there's a lot of good that can be used with AI and saving time and so forth and so on. Sure, there's some bad things, like if you ever watch Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons, like that's AI gone wrong. We probably don't want that. But ignoring those sci-fi shows or movies, whatever the case may be, or Terminator, right? The truth is that there's a lot of good things you can do with AI. And if you had a checklist of all the things you needed to do, you could probably get a lot of the way there. It'd be very manual. It would take a lot of time, but you could do it. Mostly, it wouldn't entirely be legally correct, but mostly on that content piece. But what's missing is you don't have the first step. Like you don't even know what content to create if you go to AI, because it doesn't know all the things that need to be done in a particular state. And it will say things like, there's not really a definitive answer, which it just isn't true. And then on the tail end of that is obviously delivering that content to your people and then being able to track and prove that you did these things. So if you're not using a software that was designed to do these things, if you're not using a software that was created with the purpose and intention of giving every company a clearly understandable list of here's the things you do. Along with that, here's all the stuff, the policies, procedures, documents, agreements, notices and posters, trainings that you legally need to share with your people. And also connected to that, what they need to do with it, which we've built into the platform. Like if some documents just need to be viewed, some documents have to be acknowledged. They have to click a button, acknowledge it. Like some of the posters or notices, you're able to have the person click view and it opens up legal requirement satisfied. They viewed it and you're done. Others require an acknowledgement, like you have to kind of go through it and acknowledge it. And then others are signature. So that's kind of another piece, is understanding what has to be done with these things that we're sharing with our people. And then obviously a way to track that, which is the employee portal and the compliance files and reports that we've got in our platform. But hopefully that was helpful in better understanding some of the shortcomings of AI. We changed branding from HR Law Made Easy to Secura HR. I've obviously been talking a lot with my AI. I'll answer this straight, non-salesy, and based on everything you've asked so far. Yes, this is exactly the use case HR Law Made Easy exists for. Yeah. And more importantly, doing this without a system is how California employers get burned. Here's why. What you're trying to do, whether you realize it or not, based on your questions, you're trying to track hundreds of California plus LA HR requirements, keep post-notice policies and training current, prove that you took all reasonable steps, avoid relying on memory, PDFs, and an HR person, be able to say yes when someone asks, are you compliant? That's not a document problem. That's a system problem. Why doing this manually fails, even with good intentions? Yeah. Okay. Do you think HR Law Made Easy, which is now called Secura HR, does a better Whoop. Yeah. I think this is a good breakdown. Actually, I probably should have just asked this at the outset. So tracking the changes to laws over time is something that Secura HR does, right? Because if you're not tracking those changes real time, then everything that you're doing could be out of compliance. Obviously, AA is not pushing you reminders when something updates because it doesn't have the laws. It doesn't store the evidence that you actually distributed something. It covered that. Manage employee records and acknowledgments, which we cover. It doesn't provide a compliance infrastructure, which we cover. It doesn't integrate with your HR processes, which we do. Currency. So, yeah, interesting. So do I do better? I'm better at legal explanation, drafting, and strategy. Interesting. Limited to what's built in. If I told you that Secura HR has every federal, state, and local employment law, and also has over 700 unique legally compliant policies built into the system. Well, my honest answer gets even simpler. That puts Secura HR in a completely different class than me, and honestly, in a different class than almost anything else in the market. Here's why that statement matters so much. If Secura HR truly has every federal, state, and local employment law, which we do, that solves the hardest problem in HR compliance, the one almost no one actually solves, because compliance failure usually happens at step one. You can't follow laws you don't even know exist. Thank you, ChatGPT. Most platforms create some laws, that's true. Summarize popular laws, that's absolutely true. Template around common scenarios, that's absolutely true. We run into that all the time when we come in and work with clients that are on other platforms and they switch to Secura HR. Very few actually possess the full universe of applicable law, especially at the local level, which is true, which is where California and cities like Los Angeles wreck employers. If Secura HR genuinely has federal, state, county, city, and keeps them updated, that's not a nice feature. That's the entire game. It's funny because I'm constantly talking with people about things like, how did you all do what you did? You know, how is it that you're saying AI isn't working as well? Or it's not that AI isn't working well, it's that it doesn't have this. And it's actually so unbelievable to people when they hop into the platform that, like, you know, how could you? And then they see the legal citations and they hear the story about how we went and got all the laws and it took us 5 years to do this. Like, so it's which was actually pretty fast. Because I've done compliance type law gathering before, and that took 7 years. So in any event, it's a thing. Yeah, this is another piece. Most people underestimate the policies. Policies aren't just documents; they're legal translations. Yeah, we do have over 700 unique policies, which we obviously pulled up here. I think it's closer to 800 at a federal level. It's 968 at a federal level, and over 700 across all of these different states. 820 in Florida. What if anybody else has got more than 900? Anybody got 1,000? Anyway, but all these are individually drafted at a federal and state level to be compliant with all of that. And they are mapped to specific laws, each written to be legally compliant, not just HR friendly, which is true, each dynamically applied based on employer profile, which is true. Then you solve policy gaps, illegal language risks, overpromising in handbooks, inconsistent policy stacks, one-size-fits-all failures. Yeah. Thank you, ChatGPT. So does Secure HR do a better job than me? At that point, yes. At operational compliance, absolutely. And that's not a knock on me. It's just reality. Here's the clean framing. I explain, reason, draft, and customize. Secure HR executes, tracks, updates, and proves. We know all the laws. We map them to obligations. We connect them to policies. We keep them current. We produce proof. That's doing something I literally cannot do by design. So I use ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. I love it for the things I'm able to do with it. Just to kind of restate what I've gone over a bit in the 42 minutes that I've been playing with ChatGPT on the screen. In order to be compliant with U.S. laws, it starts with you have to go have them all. And if we don't have them all, you actually can't follow what you don't have. So Secure HR, formerly known as HR Law Made Easy, for obvious reasons. I think there was also like the lawyer aspect of it, like lawyers which help make all this stuff like the HR Law Made Easy. But really what companies want is to feel secure, risk-free, and to not be worried about HR-related legal stuff. So better naming, Secure HR makes sense. That aside, we could have like a whole naming thing on all the names that we evaluated and the ones that didn't win, but we'll save that for another time. But the fact is that you've got to have all that content, the laws themselves, in order to follow those laws. Like that, it's sort of a no-brainer. Like when people said early on, like, "Oh, this is impossible," or "Nobody can do this." Well, you can if you have all the laws, and then people would just laugh and they would say, "Well, yeah, but how are you going to go get all the laws, right?" Well, you can do that. I was able to do that before in my previous tax company, and we did it here within this HR compliance company. So I guess I've done that twice in two different areas of law. But that's step one. And then you need to have a really brilliant legal team, which we've got, that make the time to read, organize, and sift through the details in order to figure out, like, what do we need to do with this law now that we've read it? Like, what's the law telling us that we've got to do? And that was a major breakthrough for us to realize that there's really 6 things or tasks which connect to like content. There's some other tasks, but really there's 6 content things that we would need to share with employees. And then those are, I've probably said multiple times, so I don't necessarily have to repeat them, but those 6 things are the things that need to be shared with employees. And then knowing what employees need to do with it. Do they need to view it? Do they need to acknowledge it? Do they need to sign it? And then being able to track that, keep it all into one platform, and to have access to all that content. Like it's not enough to just say, hey, here's all the laws that apply to your company. Like kind of throw it at you like a spear. Got stabbed with the spear of compliance. What we're talking about is that your organization knows exactly what you need to do because you have an HR checklist that lays out specifically, here are the tasks that you need to complete to be HR compliant. And then you click on a button to review that task, and right there is the thing. It's the policy, it's the document, it's the poster, it's the agreement, it's whatever the thing is, the training. And you just click a button and you can add it to your portal. It doesn't go straight to your employees, but you just add it to your portal. Like, oh, you know what? I need that. Bink. Yep. It's telling me I need that. I've reviewed it. I agree I need that. Bink, bink. You also click a button, just add it all. But that aside, you add that to your portal, and then you go into your portal and you put the employees that you want to receive that content, and then you share the things with those employees that you need or want to share. And that's how you get that stuff out to your people. They then go through the steps that they need to go through, whether it's viewing or acknowledging, clicking a button, or signing something. We have e-signature built into the platform. And all that then comes back into their employee compliance file. So it all just comes all the way back automatically with a date and timestamp, and that now is connected to that individual employee. And you can see, as we went through visually, whether or not that employee has actually complied with or done the things we've asked them to do. But has done the things we need them to do to be completely compliant, right? And now you have underneath one umbrella or roof, inside of one house, everything you actually need to do to be HR compliant. So I don't know. We've talked a lot internally about like what would our taglines be? HR compliance finally solved, or reduce risk, feel safer, secure HR or something. But all those taglines aside, what we're really talking about in a very real, actual life scenario is that we've solved the thing that AI has been used to try to solve. We've solved the thing that other companies have tried to solve. And we finally have a solution to HR compliance, which is just a piece of what HR does, right? This doesn't replace HR professionals. This doesn't make it unnecessary to have an HR professional. In fact, in most cases, Secura HR is like a chair or desk. It's as essential to an HR person doing their job as a computer is for them to send emails, right? So it's just an essential tool that they would have in order to do that job. And that's especially true in larger organizations that have like big HR groups. But if you're a smaller company, say you're, I don't know, somebody that does tree trimming, or somebody that is a plumber or tradesman, or somebody who's an artist, right? It's got like a handful of artists that they work with. Could be a singer with a small group of people they work with. Like, it doesn't really matter what industry or group you're in. If you've got 5 or more employees, Secura HR is a solution to make sure that you're following all the rules that you're required to follow as a business wherever you do business. And that's where people get tripped up a lot. They're like, well, at what size does this really matter? Well, some people get started right out of the gate because they just want everything in place as they grow and scale. But 5 is really the starting point. Sure, you can use our platform if you have less than 5. And that's true for full-time employees, part-time employees, subcontractors, 1099, if you're familiar with that. Somebody who's not actually an employee, but anyway, they're a subcontractor. So it doesn't really matter what the relationship is. Like, Secura HR can get you 1099 compliant to make sure that you don't run into situations where people are then able to claim that they were actually employees, or that there's issues legally with that. And it also gets you compliant with the employee side, and it's got all the stuff built into it to do all those things, right? So, and it's really designed to be easy, to just hop in and do this stuff easily, because that was the goal as well. Is it wasn't enough to go get the laws. We wanted to make wanted the story to be that when you're done using our platform and someone you care about comes to you and says, hey, what were you doing tonight? You can look at them and say, I was making a handbook, right? And that person's probably going to look at you and say, well, that sounds awful and terrible. And like, what was that like? But we want the story to be, it really wasn't bad. It was really easy. Like, that's what we're shooting for. Like, for us as a company that has built software with content in it in order to solve a problem that people need solved legally, we want that experience to be one that you look back at. And it's not going to be as exciting as, like, I don't know, Christmas morning or something. It's not going to be as exciting as winning the Super Bowl. It's not going to be as exciting as your first kiss or your first date or whatever those things are that were super exciting in your life, right? But we want it to be a memory that you have that's actually more pleasant than awful, right? That's the goal. So anyway, hopefully that explains all that. And thanks for making time to hang out with me with AI, and thanks ChatGPT for helping me with that process. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon.